All right, it's Tuesday night.
Sorry, I just bumped my
You're
foot.
here with Sea Science Film Labs and Jason from Faithful, Honest, and True.
Kicked my toe. Apologise.
We're here to discuss the evolution versus creation topic and atheism versus creation topic. Jolene, our lab tech, is here. Our favorite lab tech is back again this week. So,
hello.
Oh, hey there, Jolene. How you going? How's everything? You got your pain under control this week, or what? I hope so.
It's going. How are you doing tonight?
It's horrible having pain all the time. It's one thing I would not like to have is that I'm going well, but that's one thing I understand is constant pain, and I've had it in the past and been on pills and all sorts of things, and now I'm off the pills and that. But I really feel sorry for people that have got constant nagging pain, because it is just soul destroying.
I'm basically off the pills pretty much myself, except for a nerve pain pill.
Yeah, like Tremel. I'll just warn people out there: if a doctor ever offers you Tramadol hydrochloride, Tremel is a brand name, but it's Tramadol hydrochloride. If they ever offer you that for pain relief, run screaming from it. Do not touch it. Do not touch any synthetic thing like OxyContin is a synthetic. It's basically synthetic heroin.
I used to be on OxyContin, and I've been on and off Tramadols.
Well, I know heroin addicts that have told me that have had ex-heroin addicts that have had OxyContin after they've got off the heroin completely, and they said that they couldn't tell the difference between heroin and OxyContin. So basically, OxyContin, if you put heroin into a pill, everyone would be screaming, wouldn't they? They'd be going, heroin in a pill, but it's literally worse than heroin, because it's way more addictive. With heroin addiction, if you'll have diarrhea, vomiting, and horrible stuff for about 2 weeks. After about 2 weeks, you're over the worst of it. By about a month, you're fine. With OxyContin and Tramadol, I know people that have gone through withdrawals that have gone cold turkey for 6 months, and at the end of 6 months, they said it feels like they only gave it up a week ago. It took me a year.
When I went through my Tramadol withdrawal, it probably lasted about 6 months or more.
Yeah, well, what I did was I weaned myself off slowly over a year and a half, and I was cutting down. Now, get this. In the end, if I didn't have a 32nd of a pill, you cut it into 8ths, then 16ths, and then 30 seconds, right? A 32nd of a pill, I used to stick it between my lip and my gum, right? And if I didn't stick that little bit just before I went to bed at night, I wouldn't get to sleep all night. And it took me another full.
Part of my problem.
It took another full 6 weeks, right, of taking that like that in that small amount before I could just leave it alone comfortably. So it took me a year and a half to wean myself off, and I methodically over a year and a half cut myself down. Or determined, but if just don't go now, because once you're that's it. But anyway, we should get on with the actual topic of the with the show.
Yeah.
all right, yeah. I mean, I was thinking we'd cover causation again this week. Maybe, the fact that creationists understand that every effect has a cause. This is a principle of science. And atheists seem to think that the Big Bang means that there doesn't need to have to be a creative, intelligent director to form this universe, which is beyond me. I don't know how they can imagine such things. But what do you think of that for a topic?
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine by me. I can't stay long anyway. I've got to get going because I've got a lot of things to do, and I've got to go to the doctor and that. And my doctor's not close; it's a long drive. So, because I live out in the boondocks.
Oh, okay. So you got an appointment.
Yeah, and I've got to prepare and all sorts of things. So yeah, and I don't like to. Shouldn't be bloody smoking. I don't. I normally smoke cigarettes before I go to the doctor, and then I smoke most days anyway. First cigarettes I had the day in about 3 days. I was just a bit stressed out, so I had a couple of cigarettes. I don't even eat
Sure.
before I go to the doctor. Go 12 hours without eating because I want to get my blood pressure to proper blood pressure and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm starving and my mind's wandering. So anyway, well, I'll let you get on with it. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, no, when you take the blood pressure at the hospital, it's usually a little higher than it should be.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh no,
like when you take those.
They always freak out
Mine was
about mine because when my
170.
pain's high, it's too high.
Mine was 170 over 100 and something at when I started, and the doctors. Even I said, I'll get it down to normal blood pressure, and the nurse over the phone said, "Oh no, you won't be able." And then she cut off because then they didn't believe that I could do it, but I just did it, and I still drink. And my dad was skinny as a rake, and people that are skinny normally don't have blood pressure problems, and he had it because he drank all the time. He had a blood pressure problem, so I drink and smoke a little bit, and my blood pressure's perfect. So it's because I don't drink as much as he did. I don't drink every day, but yeah, I got, even though I'm drinking and I go days without smoking. I don't smoke all the time, like regularly anyway, but I've got my blood pressure down, and none of them believed I could do it. And that happened another time. There was one time where I was dying and my ankles were swelling up because my kidneys weren't working, and I was really sick. And I came back from that to full health. Like,
Ooh.
I was doing sit-ups and bench presses and everything, and like real muscly all over. I got all built and cut. And the doctor, every time I went to visit that doctor after that, he was a Jehovah's Witness, and he used to have a little bead of sweat across the top of his lip. He was a little bit scared of me, and I said, "What's the problem?" And he said, "Oh, we don't normally see people come back from this sort of thing," with a shaky voice. Anyway,
Yeah, man,
so
they don't know what you can do if you have the means, you know.
Yeah.
you do if you believe on the Lord Jesus Christ as well. But anyway,
I think that's half the reason why they were like freaked out. They were like, "Get the hell out of this ward!" when I started
but
doing
sooner
it,
or later, I can cure certain problems like sicknesses and that. But as I get older, it's getting harder and harder to cure them, because your telomeres on the ends of your chromosomes get shorter and shorter as you get older and older, and it lets more and more disease in, and it's harder and harder to kill things that were normally easy to kill off before. So sooner or later, it's going to get me, because I've damaged myself with alcohol and like drugs in the past, but mostly alcohol. I was more of an alcoholic than a drug addict sort of thing, or pills or anything like that. So yeah, so it's going to get me. I don't think I'm going to live to like 65 or 60 even myself, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I mean, a weakened immune system is a great example of entropy acting on living systems. Evolutionists claim that entropy doesn't really apply to life because they're closed systems. Or wait, no, open systems. Yeah. So, yes.
And it can fix it.
There's actually, like, entropy applies to living forms several ways. And one of them is aging and just your body breaking down over time as you age. And then another one is just the mutation through reproduction, the mutation that occurs from chemical and elemental influence and radiation. So, and all this is breaking down an ordered system that it's most, I don't know, I guess it's self-healing in some ways, but there's damage that's done that cannot be fixed. So.
Yeah, well, there's machines that go around and fix copying errors. These little machines in the DNA that go around and fix copying errors in the DNA, but they don't fix everything. They can't get everything, so there's always a little bit that's garbled. It's like I always say, if you got an encyclopedia and you went through the encyclopedia and changed one letter in every 1,000 words, it's not going to change the meaning of it. I mean, you can keep changing letters, maybe 100 letters, 1,000 letters, 10,000 letters in an entire encyclopedia and still get the message across. But sooner or later, you keep randomly changing letters, then you're going to end up with something that's just gobbledygook that makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Oh yeah. So that's just a great example of why evolution is not worth believing in, because mutation breaks down and disorders these systems. It doesn't create new ones. It doesn't create new perfect
Yeah.
books. It creates errors in these books. So
Even beneficial mutations, most of them now have been found to be epigenetic regulation, like the Sherpas, the high altitude Sherpas who have that their lungs are larger. Basically, they've got this, they can breathe in lower oxygen. If they move away from that area within a couple of generations, they lose that. Okay. So, you know, if it's at the Bardu, I can't pronounce it, Bardu, or I think deep diving people, they've got a special thing that they can dive really deep for long amounts of time and stuff. But if they stop doing that and go away from that within a few generations, it goes away, sort of thing. So that proves that it never came about by mutation. They used to always say that all these things were mutation, and like the sickle cell thing. If you get half the sickle cell thing from one parent, and you only get half the sickle cell gene, then you're immune to malaria. But what it does is it turns your blood, your little red blood cells, into like a sickle shape, and normally your blood cells are round and squishy, and they squish through the blood vessels, and they're slippery, and they squish through the blood vessels. But when they get into a sickle shape, they clog up in the vessels, and they can cause them lots of pain over time, you know, and generally their lives are shortened, and they're open to other things. And people that have got immune to the AIDS virus, they're more susceptible to things like cancer and other cancers and stuff like that, because they've literally just kicked a part of their genome away, so the AIDS virus can't get in. So they've literally just dumped the part of their genome. So they're leaving themselves open all over the place. So it's genetic entropy is generally everywhere, and there's almost no examples of beneficial mutations. And anything that is slightly beneficial, it's usually just slightly beneficial. It's not fully beneficial. So that's the problem with that one.
yes, like you were saying, the sickle cell anemia. I mean, leave it to the evolutionists to be so strapped for evidence that they're going to reach for a blood disorder. You know, something that causes the red blood cells not be able to carry the oxygen quite as well. I mean, that just shows that they're lacking evidence, you know. So
yeah. Anyway, I've got to go. I've got to make some phone calls and stuff.
all right,
Can
man.
you and Jolene, you do this one and whatever, and then hopefully by next week. I don't think it'll be here by then, but we'll see.
All
It'll
right, yeah,
definitely
it
be
sounds good, man. And
by the week
good
after
luck at
that.
your appointment and stuff.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
I'll see you later. God bless. Have a good day.
God bless.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Yeah, like he was saying, these beneficial mutations or claims of beneficial mutations are far from what is needed to explain the origin of all the life we see on this planet. They would need billions of not just what would be beneficial mutations, but new mutations that would be adding on to the genome, you know, to the DNA. So it's just like, it seems like what we're seeing are a bunch of systems that have been ordered in the first place and slowly becoming disordered. There's thousands of identified human genetic disorders and very few identified mutations that actually benefit an animal. So the evidence, I guess, is in the creationist's favor, I guess is where I'm going with this.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So it's interesting, you know, when you really consider which model fits reality more, and you come up with the fact that there are no good mutations and they're all detrimental ones. They're all disordering the system. So it definitely it puts the evolution theory in jeopardy and reinforces the creation theory. So, but to get on to what we were talking about in the beginning of the night, which is causation, and this is a principle of science, just the idea that everything that exists has a precursor, a cause. So causation, everything has a cause. To believe in the Big Bang model as it is, you pretty much have to ignore this principle of science and believe that nothing became everything. So, and undirected. That's pretty amazing that they can just ignore principles of science like that. I mean, they ignore causation. They ignore the fact that, matter can't move faster than the speed of light, because they have in the Big Bang model, there's what's called the expansionary epoch, where all the contents of the universe appear, and in the first half a second, these contents spread out throughout the universe many times faster than the speed of light. So right there, you're breaking known laws of physics and principles of physics. They believe in these magic theories and then point fingers at creationists saying, well, you just say God did it. And it's like, well, you just say the Big Bang did it. And, at least with creationists, you don't have to ignore causation. So, and we can also believe that the universe never even had to expand at an infinite rate faster than the speed of light, being creationists, because we can believe that the contents of the universe are manifested already spread out. So we're not like tethered to some nonsense Big Bang theory, which was invented originally by a Catholic priest. This Latimer something. But I had it a while back, but he basically came up with the idea that everything came from a center point, I believe so, and expanded out from there. And in the Bible, it explains that the heavens are spread, or God spreadeth out the heavens, and it uses the word spreadeth, so it's present tense or parts, I don't know. But yeah, so it means that he's still doing this, so God continues and has and always will continue to spread out the universe like a curtain or like a tent for people to dwell in, is what the Bible says. So the idea of universal expansion is biblical, and you can have universal expansion without believing that all the contents came from a single dot or even a center point, because you can believe that they were created, 6, 7, 10,000 years ago, already spread out, and then continue to spread from there. So, and that's kind of the model I'm leaning towards at this point as far as my creation model, is that the contents of the universe are actually never all together at a single point, but were created spread out originally. So you kind of skip the inflationary epoch, which ignores principles of science to begin with. So, and as far as I know, there's no principle of science that says that, matter can't just manifest already spread out in this reality. So, also, in the Big Bang model, you have energy being created, coming out of nowhere or nothing. No time, no matter, no energy before the Big Bang. Okay, according to Krauss, according to Mr. Stephen Hawking, there was nothing, absolutely nothing before the Big Bang. So they have the creation of energy. This is something else that is not science, and it goes against principles of science because, as you know, energy cannot be created or destroyed. In creation models, we believe in an eternal God, and therefore there can be eternal properties of this universe. And this fits into our model, quite well, where energy being eternal doesn't really fit into the atheist Big Bang model. I mean, you don't have to believe in the Big Bang model to be an atheist, but according to most atheists, it's the best guess they have so far. So, but yeah, and that's like the whole causation idea. And if you look up causation online, you'll see that it is a real principle of science that the atheists have to ignore to believe in their Big Bang. So the creation models are more scientific than the current cosmological models that the atheists are leaning on. And they deny that there's any creation model. So
Sorry that I'm not
you're good.
adding too much tonight.
Hey, you're
not
good,
feeling too
Jolene.
great.
Yeah, Jolene's here with us tonight, our favorite lab tech's here. And if anyone wants to join the open mic, feel free. I think that the link's still in the chat. Let's see what we got here. Hey, Missing Mod's in the chat. We were doing well. Good to see you. And I don't know what we're going to really cover tonight. We still can't really play any videos, as Jason was saying. He's waiting to get this laptop. And we'll see if the if they still have that issue with the lag and such, so on and so forth. Yeah. So this might be a short one tonight. But so he did kind of go into genetic entropy as far as the mutations being not only undirected but random and always detrimental. They're always a negative effect on the genome as a whole. So like he said, and it's a very good analogy, is comparing the genome to a book where every mutation, you know, it changes a letter to a different letter. And you could read through this book with several letters changed and pretty much get the same idea across that they were getting in the first place. And as long as it's like that, the book's going to be readable. But eventually, you know, sections of the book would become unreadable. And then whole chapters of the book would become unreadable. And, well, you know, you need a few chapters of the book to actually understand it. So
Yeah.
after that, the living organism in this comparative analogy would be failing. And that's what we see in nature. You know, we have, even in the human body, we have a lot of reproductive disorders right now, and immunity disorders. And that's where it's really hit us, I think, the worst is the immunities. And the nervous system. There's a lot of nerve conditions.
Yeah,
so.
like, you know.
So every disorder that's out there is a product of mutation. So yeah, we're chilling too.
There's like lupus and there's MS, Tourette's. You know, there's tons of different disorders, and like I know like there's new sciences that are coming out that supposedly can reverse things like that. So evolutionists are coming out and being like, oh, well, we can reverse this. Well, you can only reverse it for so long. You have to keep doing that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't completely, it doesn't reverse it completely. It helps it, and only for so long.
I don't know if we can read this here, but maybe if I go this way. No, that's totally gonna be wrong. Yeah, here we go. So genetic entropy is the random accumulation of deleterious mutations. At the extreme, excessive genetic entropy can drive extinction of mutator clones. Yeah, I don't know what those are. But so, yeah, there you have it. Oh.
Is the human genome degrading? This has resulted in the accumulation of a large number of
Deleterious
Thank you.
mutations. Yeah.
and sequences containing gene control elements, and hence a widespread degradation of the genome during evolution of human and chimpanzees.
So yeah, they had to stick that
Yeah.
at the end there. All hail human evolution. So can you look up the number of identified human disorders? So human disorders, basically. And I think there's a Wikipedia article that lists. There's a list, but yeah. So there's there's thousands of disorders out there, but very few orderings. Very few examples of where new genetic data is being added to the genome. Yeah, pigs will never grow wings on their own. We're going to have to, add those by manipulating the genome, adding this new code. I guess that there's something very scary about this idea.
Okay.
At the bottom of all this,
Says the anatomical disease section includes 18 major categories with more than 26,000 disease representing all areas of the body, including blood, bone, immune, muscle, and reproductive diseases. The global disease section contains 6 categories: cancer, fiecto. Damn
you
it.
want to drink?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Fetal, genetic, infectious, metabolic, and diseases. Almost 18,000 specific diseases. So that means that they've identified and named 18,000 diseases that are because of genetic disorder. And that's just in humans. So yeah, so the idea that mutation actually could have created the life on this planet is seriously flawed. This bad logic. I mean, if you've got 18,000 disorders that are being carried on, in the human genome right now, and no examples of ordering of this genetic data, so results like mutations that result in the addition of new genomic data. That's what would be required to build these living systems. And it's like, and then they're going to believe that these random mutations did this.
And it says there are more than 5,000 recognized genetic diseases in humans.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, and that's 2023. So that's pretty new. Yeah, I mean, all these diseases basically they're in because of genetic disorders. Let's see. So, and I kind of talked about this last week. Well, before that, like I was saying, there's something very scary about the genetic entropy. Is that it means that eventually humans, we're going to lose the ability to see. We're going to lose our immune systems, our ability to protect ourselves from viruses. We're going to lose our control of our nervous systems. Okay. Our reproductive systems are already in jeopardy. So like 100 years down the road, 200 years down the road, it's going to get worse and worse every generation. So it's going to eventually wipe out the human race if we don't intervene, with our healthcare. If we can correct our healthcare system and invent this technology to actually heal the human genome, if this doesn't occur, we're gonna basically not exist. Yeah, we'll just, there won't be any more babies, and they'll have to do this whole in vitro or whatever it is. It's in vitro.
Yeah, in vitro.
Yeah. So, and then it'll be like only babies will be born that way for a while, and then that'll stop working, and that'll be it. So, unless we develop the technology, and it'll have to be with our computers, we'll go in there and actually manipulate the genome somehow. If we do it in time, we can save ourselves probably. But it's almost like there's there's like a what's that flippy sand device? Time. Time.
Sand clock.
Yeah, something like that. It's just like there's a time limit on humanity, basically. And it's written into our genome. So unless we come about and figure out how to fix it, it's going to wipe out us. It's going to wipe out all the animals on this planet, this genomic entropy or genetic entropy. Because I kind of went into genomic entropy last week when I was talking about the semiotic sign system that they discovered within the human genome. And after they mapped the human genome, they discovered there's basically a computer program, computer operating system within the human genome. And it's comparable to the same kind of programming that would be in computer programming. So that's interesting. Let's look that up. So I'm show this. And maybe I can blow the screen up here. So I can actually display it. I don't know how long it'll take to change. But bear with us for just a minute, if you will. Yeah, I don't know. So here's what we're talking about. So there's a biosemiotic sign system that was discovered in the genome that says, and this biosemiotic entropy is the genomic entropy that I talk about, which is different than genetic entropy, which is to do with the deleterious mutations that accumulate within the living systems through reproduction and different and the different other mutations, like through radiation and then chemical and elemental influence. So biosemiotic entropy is the degradation of the genetic language. So the deleterious mutations and or aberrant regulation of that language, epigenetic malfunctions. So this is like Jason was talking about, the epigenetics are sort of like codes that are already in your genome, and they're switches that get turned on and off during the course of your life that actually change your genetics, is what they're finding. So epigenetics is like, if you imagine there's a bunch of different switches to different portions of programming in your genome that can get turned off or on. Okay. So what this is showing, if I can, biosemiotic entropy is the degradation of the genetic language. So it's actually breaking down this semiotic coding that's within your genome. So it's really, it's not good. where does this go to? Yeah, here's my article. So here's my my resource. Biosemiotic entropy. Woo. Allow all. All right. Biosemiotic entropy of the genome, mutations and epigenetic imbalances resulting in cancer. This article says that basically virtually every cancer known to humankind is a result of the very same mutation that evolutionists believe created humans. So the same mutation that they think made us is actually what's destroying us. So it's not like they say. Now, I know you probably won't be able to read this, but biosemiotic entropy involves the deterioration of biological sign systems. The genome is a coded sign system that is connected to the phenotypic outputs through the interpretive functions of the tRNA ribosome machinery. This symbiotic sign system, semiosis, at the core of all biology, has been termed biosemiosis. Layers of biosemiosis and cellular information management are analogous in varying degrees to the semiotics of computer programming. So, as I say right there, it's completely comparable to computer programming. Spoken and written human languages. So they actually found written language within the human genome, you know. And this is like I was saying last week, I think it was with Pixie Storms, is this is another one of the best lines of evidence, I think, that the living systems here on this planet are a creation and not just some random happen chance. Okay, so they've actually found language inside of our makeup. So this is layers of biosemiosis and cellular information management are analogous in varying degrees to the semiotics of computer programming, spoken and written human languages. Biosemiotic entropy, and it's defined biosemiotic entropy as an error or deviation from a healthy state, results from errors in copying functional information, mutations, and errors in the appropriate context or quantity of gene expression, epigenetic imbalance. The concept of biosemiotic entropy is a deeply embedded assumption in the study of cancer biology. So they're really saying that this this biosemiotic entropy, the breakdown of this information, is what's causing the cancer to appear in humankind. You know, all cancers are formed because of genetics, which is it's very revealing, and we're going to learn a lot. And hopefully, he'll understand this biological science system and then being able to manipulate it with our own technology. So we'll see what happens. Okay. Again, as an error or deviation from a healthy state results errors in copy functional information, mutations and errors in the appropriate context or quantity of gene expression, genetic imbalance. So, and it actually says healthy state and a functioning state. So you have this language, just like in a book. There's a language in a book, come and then unreadable. Your whole body works off of this language, and if it becomes corrupt enough, your line is over. And it eventually happened to all humanity. So, and all the other animals. And you know, we're losing it. What's obvious is there's more and more extinct examples. see. All right. I see the little circle around my avatar, so that must be coming through. What is biosemiosis? Biosemiosis is simply sign-mediated communication in living organisms, resulting in biological function, the heart of all biological sign systems, and the central dogma, describing how the DNA code, its signs mediated and processed as mRNA, becomes translated by the tRNA ribosome, interpreting complex to form polypeptides, why it's important to recognize a living organism as a semiotic system. So this is a different way of looking at life, and realizing that we're basically books of language or computer programming. Why is it important to recognize a living organism as a semiotic system? Recognizing living organisms as semiotic systems allows for useful analogies to be drawn from other semiotic systems, such as analogies are powerful because they give insight and understanding by relating the unfamiliar in terms of the familiar, and lessons learned from other semiotic spheres, such as the principles of efficient information storage and retrieval in computer science, can generate predictions and hypotheses for new frontiers in biology, such as tree-like database structure for information storage and retrieval in human genome. This is evidenced by the fact that biologists frequently use analogies from the familiar semiotic systems of human language and computers. So right there, it says that biologists frequently use comparisons of human language and computer systems to the biosemiotic system found within the human genome. And you have evolutionists here on YouTube pointing the finger and laughing at creationists for comparing these living systems, DNA, to computers, or even cars or whatever, or these systems. So it's funny.
Yeah, it is.
And hypocritical of them. Yeah. To optimize the usefulness of these analogies. And the other thing it's saying is that being able to compare this, it's like, if we can fix our computer programs, if we can go in and edit them and use C++ or whatever and go in there and edit your computer programs, and maybe we can actually fix our DNA, and we don't have to be extinct because of this genomic entropy. So
very true.
Yeah. Now, every effect has a cause. So you got to look at these effects that are walking around. You look at humans walking around and you got to realize what could have caused that. Is it a product, an end product of billions of years of evolution, which is basically the extreme weeding out the weak, and animals dying off because of exposure and different environmental factors? I mean, it's so far from reality, the evolution theory. They believe that extinction causes space on the planet for more things to rise.
Shouldn't humans be getting better, not worse? I mean, look at most humans today. They have more diseases than ever. Like, more and more children are being born autistic, ADHD, with cancers, so forth and so on. More and more are being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, so forth and so on. If evolution was real, shouldn't they have been evolving into being a better human?
I'd imagine so. I mean, if they think that we came from basically mud, like a muddy puddle, to being, singing, dancing, plane flying humans, you'd think that they'd get better from here. But that's what I'm always asking them, like, what's the future of evolution? Where are we headed? Like, if evolution's real and we all rose from different animal forms, then what's next? Like, what are we going to become now?
Because, I mean,
are you gonna
I've
change?
got enough health problems right now. I mean, if evolution is real, I mean, please evolve me right now. 'Cause I need a new body.
I'd like to fast evolve some gills so I can swim.
I'd like to
Better.
just fast evolve some sleep and being able to breathe normally. You know, breathe without a damn inhaler. Excuse the
There you go.
language. Pardon my French.
Hey, the respiratory system. All body systems are gonna have more and more issues.
And I have autoimmune disorders.
There are, I think there's 12 major systems in the human body. And then there's also regulatory systems. So you got like a couple dozen systems, I think, that have been identified. Because like the cannabinoid system, you know, is getting a lot of coverage lately. That's actually a regulatory system. So it's used to regulate your mood and regulate like your sleep and stuff, you know. So it's interesting. Oh wait. No, regulate your other systems. So it'd be like these regulatory systems regulate the main systems, the main 12 systems. Yeah, that's it. I remember now. All right. So, yeah, so biosemiotic entropy is no good for living systems because it means that we're all losing our functionality as it is and the functionality of our epigenetic code. So, and we could go into epigenetics tonight too. I think I even have a page in my notebook about it, but we've covered the genetic entropy and the genomic entropy. So I think that should do. Now, what is a mutation? We sure hear that word a lot. And, you know, I've asked evolution believers, you know, what is the difference between evolution, or do they differentiate between evolution and mutation in time? You know, so evolution, they believe that random mutations are controlled by environmental factors, you know, and no, you don't. Yeah, so I'm trying to know. I would like to know how evolution works. So if anyone does out there, you can come on our open mic and explain it to me. So survival of the fittest is basically, you know, you lose everything until you gain it all, I guess. So like we lose all the fluffy puppies until we get the fluffy puppies again.
I
don't know how it works.
Hold on.
You put all the dogs in Alaska and then all the fluffy dogs are left and there's no skinny dogs. I don't know. They probably all die, right? I mean, if it's too cold.
Survival of the Fittest term made famous in the 5th edition, published in 1869 on The Origin of Species by British naturalist Charles Darwin, which suggests that the organisms best adjust to their environment are the most successful in surviving and reproducing.
Well, that only makes sense. But how does that result in more animals? You know what I mean? It just seems like an explanation of why there's so many extinct ones.
It says, in dangerous circumstances, only those individuals most adapted to their environment survive. And the world, with its limited food supplies, fearsome predators, and devastating disease, it's always a dangerous place.
Oh, Call Me Emo's in the chat with a comment. Evolution, descent with terrible modifications over generations. Oh yeah. Yep. Like blindness, like that's heritable. And what are the other genetic disorders that comes? So you have these genetic disorders, basically, that are heritable, and they get passed on through the generations, and that causes deleterious information to be passed on in these living systems to more and more generations and push their problems further down the line, I guess. And I mean, and I guess if it gets so bad that line drops off, but there's things that happen with the reproductive system that get passed on anyway. There's mutations that result in instant death, but there's mutations that can happen within the reproductive system that don't keep that animal from reproducing, yet it gets passed on to the next set of generations.
So you wanted to know like different genetic disorders then? Or
There's just the number. I think they said 15,000, right? Or
yeah.
what was it, 5,000 identified? So good to see you. Call me emo. So how is that different than just mutation in time? You know what I mean? Like mutation we've known about far longer than Darwin. 6,000 genetic disorders in humans. This is saying, oh, let me see. Can I flip her around here? Yeah. Yeah, see it? There it is. 6,000, over 6,000 now. And this is, no, there's no date. Well, that's Wikipedia. All right. 6,000 deleterious mutations. And no real examples of beneficial mutations, because all these beneficial mutations just seem to be results of epigenetic changes. So pre-existing
and there
information being allowed to be activated.
There are 3 types of genetic disorders. Single gene disorders where a mutation affects one gene. Sickle cell anemia is an example. Chromosomal disorders where chromosome or part of chromosomes are missing or changed.
Oh, wow.
And hold on. Let's see. Let me get this pulled up. And complex disorders where there are mutations in 2 or more genes.
So complex, chromosomal, and single gene disorders. Wow. And so those are the different kinds. But like I said, there's 3 different causes of mutation. There's regular reproductive mutation. It just happens during reproduction. There's reproduction due to radiation coming in from space. Space rays coming knocking. Well, anyway, they make you mutate. And then you have influence from chemical and elemental. So metals and chemicals can also make you mutate.
There are more than 600 genetic disorders that are treatable. Around 1 in 50 people are affected by a known single gene disorder, while 1 in 263 are affected by a chromosomal disorder.
Yeah, and you can treat them, but you can't cure them yet. And that's what we got to come up with, is a way to cure these mutations and this bombardment, this accumulation of deleterious mutations in the human genome, or we're going to end up extinct like so many other animals. Looking at the fossil record, there's a lot of evidence that there are more animals in the past than there are alive today, more animal forms. There's good evidence that many animals have gone extinct. There's bad evidence that many new animal forms have come about through evolution. So, evolutionists seem to believe that extinction causes new animals to appear. Take a look at the Cambrian explosion. You had some mass extinction event right before that. And then all of a sudden, there's just basically every animal form we know now, appearing in this. So, beneficial mutations are not referred to as beneficial mutations in the literature. Whose literature? What were we just reading? Well, yeah, there's no real beneficial mutations, if you ask me.
No.
But they're all just... well, let's look up definition of mutation, if you will. Because let's cover that first.
Wait,
and if
let's look up what?
Definition of mutation. And there'll be I believe the human genome definition from the humangenome.org. But let's not do that one. Let's get a cited paper here. Cancer Institute. Yeah. All right. Let me share this in the chat too.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mutation is any change in the DNA sequence of a cell. Mutations may be caused by mistakes during cell divisions, or they may be caused by exposure to DNA damaging agents in the environment. Mutations can be harmful, beneficial, or have no effect. If they occur in cells that make eggs or sperm, they can be inherent. If mutations occur in other types of cells, they are not inherent. Certain mutations may lead to cancer or other diseases. A mutation is sometimes called a variant.
So mutations are caused by mistakes. They're mistakes, which isn't something intentional or directed. So these mistakes do nothing but cause errors in the language that's been discovered within the human genome. This biosemiotic sign system they were discussing earlier. So, beneficial mutations are not referred to as beneficial mutations in the literature. Well, let's see. Let's look up beneficial mutation. Study.com. A beneficial mutation is a type of mutation that has a positive effect on an organism. These mutations are rare, but significant. How rare? Well, we can't name any. I'm kidding. All right, I'm not kidding. So, no, they're so rare. So, beneficial mutations are at this academy at study.com. Let's see if they're at, the National Institute of Health. .gov. They're at a government site. Beneficial mutation, selection, balance, and the effect of linkage on positive selection results in a succession of selective sweeps. Wow. Selective sweeps. That's a cute compound word they made up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Oh, we're not. Oh, damn. I forgot what I said. What? We're not. Cite a species that is subjected to natural selection in a natural environment, but is on the brink of extinction due to accumulative deleterious mutations. Well, there's a lot of animals that are going extinct. And wouldn't that be from environmental factors and their deleterious mutations, their genetic disorders?
True.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the very forces that evolutionists believe created these animals are what's taking them out, which is these environmental factors, right? And these mutations. So it's actually quite the opposite of what the evolutionists claim. You know? All species are subjected to natural selection. Let's see what's on the brink of extinction. You have the giant panda, okay? That has some serious reproductive issues due to mutation. From what I understand, they have to artificially inseminate them, and they still aren't working very well.
Tiger.
Which tiger?
The white tigers.
The white tigers. They're on the brink of extinction. Since all reproductive disorders are a result of the same mutation that evolutionists believe created these animals. I forgot what I was going to say, but I need a drink, so I'm going to be right back. And I'm back. So, yeah, there's a lot of animals that have gone extinct, and there's animals that are going extinct. The reasons that they're going extinct are their genetic disorders. They have problems reproducing. As soon as you have problems reproducing, it happens less often. And then you have these environmental factors keeping you from reproducing in the first place. And then you just, that's extinction, man. The fact that evolutionists seem to think that extinction leads to space, like some niche that new animals will just pop into when they have no example of how these new animals come about. That's kind of interesting that they could make that leap. Define. Whoop. We were just saying that. Cite an example of such. Wait a minute. Hang on. I missed one, I think. Well, now let me click that. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. Meditation. Say beneficial mutations are any mutation that benefits the animal or living system. Boom. Now, give us an example of a mutation that benefits a living system. And in case you want to go to sickle cell anemia, like we've already talked about that, and how a blood disorder that keeps you from transferring oxygen through your body correctly isn't exactly beneficial to a living form. So there's like three main examples that evolutionists grasp for when asked for an example of something that might, give credence to their idea that mutation results in good things and not all bad, extinction. And so they'll say, hey, there's those guys on the Andes or whatever that can control their heart rate. And then there's these free divers that can dive down hundreds of feet. And they're like, there must be because of mutation. And they identify this part of the genome. Well, they found out that it's epigenetic changes and has nothing to do with the same mutation that evolutionists claim created life. Cystic fibrosis and sickle cell disease.
And hemophilia.
Yep. How rare are beneficial mutations? Beneficial mutations are accumulating. This is from Computer Science. Okay, that's not the one to read.
No.
All right.
Um,
Beneficial mutations are rare, but significant. Big old babies in the chat. Hey, Big Bad Mama. And Alex. Hey, Alex. Good to see you. Oh, beneficial mutations. National Institute of Health.gov. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's certainly used in the literature. Yeah, this is a peer-reviewed paper right here. And they're using those dirty beneficial mutation words. Mm-mm-mm. So that's just some, assertion that you pulled out of your assumptions. Yep, they do use that. And here's the thing. It's our position that all mutation screws up the human genome. So go and point out a beneficial mutation in humanity to me, and I will show you how you're wrong. Here's a good one. The harmful mutations do not survive long, and the beneficial mutations survive much longer. So when you consider only surviving mutations, most are beneficial. Wait. I understand now. Oh my gosh. I get evolution now. Jolene, I'm changing my whole yeah, I'm changing yes.
Really?
I'm just changing
You gotta explain it to me now.
Okay.
Because
So
I still don't understand it.
So harmful mutations like cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, all these examples of mutations that are in the human genome and get passed on over and over and over again, actually don't get passed on because they all die. See?
Oh, okay. I see.
That's how it goes. And so the reason that we have all this accumulation of deleterious mutations just disproved what he thinks. See? Because he thinks all the bad mutation just gets weeded out. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
That is a shame.
Hey, if that happened, there wouldn't be so many extinct animal forms that we can see in the fossil record.
That's true.
Yeah. I think they'd just keep living on and on and on. Because, the good ones, they just keep living. And the weak ones get weeded out. And that's natural selection. So basically, if we keep losing animal forms to extinction, we'll get more, right? If we lose all these animal forms to mutation, we'll get more animals. Is that how evolution works? I forget. When you have habitat destruction, you limit genetic diversity in species, and it can lead to extinction. That's true. There's a lot of extinction out there. But you know what? There's not a lot of creation of new living forms, because that only happened once in the beginning of the world. And I don't think God did create something since he created that fish for Jonah.
Yeah.
I think that was a one-time thing.
Very true.
Yeah. And you know what? I like to think that God's probably still up to his work out there somewhere creating stuff. But, I like to think a lot of things. So, again, I would like someone to explain how the strong animals eating all the weak animals creates more animals. Oops, sorry. Let me know. And then someone, if you could explain to me how guinea pigs are still around, that would be cool. Because, you know, they're basically like a sausage just sitting there.
You drop
Wait.
those things and they blow up and like, I mean,
They're blind. I mean, no. Yeah, they're blind, you know.
they're basically blind. They're not completely blind.
Like, they're
but
not a
basically.
rabbit. The rabbits can kick you and run. and
Like,
bite.
guinea pigs are like so fragile.
They have those little feet, you know, for slicing their enemies.
Like, literally, my friend dropped one down the
Razor
stairs and it
blades.
blew up.
Oh my god.
It blew up. It was the freakiest thing ever. It was like, I mean, like, I like have PTSD from it.
Oh my word. Hey, there we go. So guinea pigs survive, but we lost the blastoids. There's these little starfish looking things that propelled themselves. We have fossils. We kind of know.
Yeah.
We think we know how they work, but you know, most people don't know that sea lilies move around, and because they look like plants. And I guess if we had fossils of those, we might not even realize that they move.
An orange cat survived.
Yeah, orange cats survive.
I mean, like, how did they survive? I mean,
well,
with that, like, one brain cell that they pass along between each other, you know.
oh my word.
Although,
Well,
I
you know,
mean,
the tigers.
my orange cat, I think that stole all the brain cells from all the other orange cats because she's pretty smart.
It's like a person. We have manimals that understand. No. But yeah, like you have the tiger with its stripes. It's like, yes, these stripes will hide me in the tall grass and protect me from my orange color shining through the green. It's like, they'll never see me now. Evolution has given me these stripes.
The stripes on zebras and like tigers and stuff like that, it's not so much to hide them, it disorients the other animals.
Oh. New species evolve all the time. Ooh. Yes. All right. So here we go. Now we can do the species. What's a species? Well, don't look it up. There's not right now. So there's this thing called the species definition problem, where there's like, I guess, you know, biological science philosophers have actually labeled 26 different definitions of species. You know, and like, but there's one that I think would be what a species is. But I don't know what your definition of species is. And since it's such a vague term, I guess that, you know, new species evolve all the time doesn't really mean much. But do you mean like there's chihuahuas now? Are those a different species to you? Or like what's a different species? Or what do you believe has come out of something else and you've witnessed this this event? And I guess they call it speciation if you want to look up claimed events of this. But I've seen them all, and they're mostly plants, these claims. No real claims for animals usually. There's like one animal claim. And it's like an assumption. You know, they're like, 10,000 years ago, we witnessed these animals splitting up. And we know that they came from each other because we checked their genes. And we've assumed that they are. It's like, wow, that's not really any kind of evidence for anything, is it? I don't think so. But, you know, evolutionists, they have a different, I guess, they're working from a different book, I guess. Different book of logic, I suppose, where they can just work from their assumptions and guesswork instead of needing to know any real facts about reality. They can stick with their stories of, you know, wolves becoming dogs and stuff that's been disproven a long time ago if they want to. But there's no real example of speciation. If he wants to, oh, yeah, I want to see speciation happening on film. speciation, okay, to you is probably not true speciation, because true speciation is an evolutionist's fantasy. Yeah. How would you know when it happened? I guess that's up to you to figure out, isn't it? I just like, the fact is, the examples of claimed speciation are all assumptions. They're like 10,000 years ago, the gray squirrel split from the red squirrel, and it was split by the Grand Canyon or something like that. You know, they'll be like, this animal was split by the Grand Canyon 10,000 years ago. And we know it happened because they're both squirrels. Well, that logic doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah.
It is like, and first of all, isn't it still a squirrel? And I'm pretty sure you can mate a red squirrel with a gray squirrel. And that's what it really comes down to. So how would you know when it happened? Well, the offspring would, first of all, no longer be able to reproduce with the host species. And it would also have to be a species of its own. You know, you would have to actually witness these animals being split up, and so many generations pass with them split up to where they can no longer be interbred, or better yet, no longer genetically compatible, because there's differences in anatomy that can occur, you know, that can make barriers to keep animals from reproducing, that can actually reproduce together. Just as like it might be hard for a Chihuahua and a Saint Bernard to reproduce together, but they're both dogs. Okay, so yeah, I'd say true speciation, like true speciation just exists in the evolutionists' imagination. They like to believe in it, but they can't point any real examples out. And a squirrel changing colors through reproduction isn't really what's required to explain the origin of all the different species on this planet. So that's where you guys are falling short. How can you witness genetic incompatibility on film? Would you, or the one that offered to show speciation on film? So that's up to you, buddy. I can think of a way you could show it, but would you like to show me, I don't know, say a research paper that explains scientists observing true speciation occurring? Or is this just something that you're realizing you believe in and isn't real? Yeah, I mean, if you think that speciation has occurred, all you would have to do is name a species. So if you think polar bears are a new species of bear, then you could say, I think polar bears, Mr. Sea Science, polar bears are a brand new species, and there's nothing like them on the whole planet. There's nothing that could ever breed with a polar bear. That's not a polar bear. So speciation must have occurred. But the fact of the matter is, other bears can hybridize with polar bears. So no speciation has occurred. Now you would have to prove that the polar bears arose from some other bear to even prove that speciation. And that's why I like to say, you know, evolutionists have no examples of true speciation. Okay? Because there are none. So you have imagination versus reality. And the evolution models are based in imagination, and creation's based in reality. Because creationists understand that mutation is a destructive force. Yeah. Yeah, I am too. Let's get into this. Maybe this will get us some. Yeah. Victoria, would you like some? Polyploidal parthenogenesis. Speciation is not true speciation. We can talk about that in just a second. Let me get my notes because I just did like a video about a year ago on saltational speciation and why it's not true speciation. So, first of all, I point out the marbled crayfish is a crayfish. If something had just speciated, like you would need from your evolution theory, your evolution model, you'd be looking at an animal that's basically got no hosts that it can mate with. You know, so like the marbled crayfish, it was split from other crayfish. It might have changed color, but it's still a crayfish, and it's still likely compatible with other crayfish. Or it's, you know, not a crayfish. So would that not be a crayfish anymore? Or is it still a crayfish? You know, this is the thing. True speciation and the plethora of variation that we see in the animal kingdom, it can't be explained by evolution, because these animals will always remain the same animal form, you know. And evolution theory has been allowed to confuse a very simple science so much that they're categorizing whales as even-toed ungulates when they don't really have any toes. So it's really perverted the science quite a bit. And that's what should really make people mad that care. So, crayfish is just a name given to a group of organisms. The name is not important. Well, let me show you something that is important. What if I told you that if you had kept two of these crayfish with two other crayfish, they'd probably mate with those crayfish if they're about the same size? Because saltational speciation, let's look that up. I believe that's where it's just separated by distance, and the only barrier keeping these animals from reproducing with each other is distance. So that's that would not be true speciation if the only barrier is distance and not even size of anatomy, you know. So let's see. And we can even work right from, you know, Wikipedia, I believe. Okay. So here you have three different examples of what evolutionists claim are speciation. Now, again, a species is defined differently by different people. For me, species is defined as the largest group of individuals that are capable of being, that are genetically compatible. Okay, so even if the animals are so far away from each other that they cannot reproduce. But they'd be able to reproduce if they were together. Then to me, that's still the same species because they can, reproduce with each other. So the factor of distance being a barrier doesn't really count in my mind for making these two different species. But most of the examples of speciation, the animals can still reproduce with other animals of like. So you have allopatric speciation, where a population splits into two geographically isolated populations, for example, by habitat fragmentation due to geographical change, such as mountain formation, or a river forming, splitting up animals. The isolated populations then undergo genotypic phenotypic divergence as they become subject to dissimilar selective pressures. Different mutations arise in the two populations. When the populations come back into contact, they've evolved so much and such that they are reproductively isolated and no longer capable of exchanging genes. Island genetics is the term associated with the tendency of small isolated genetic pools to produce unusual traits. Examples include insular dwarfism and radical changes among certain famous island chains. For example, on Komodo, the Galapagos Islands are particularly famous for the influence on Charles Darwin. During his 5 weeks there, he heard the Galapagos tortoises could be identified by island, and noticed that the finches differed from one island to another. But it was only 9 months later that he reflected that such facts would show the species were changeable. When he returned to England, his speculation on evolution deepened after experts informed him that these were separate species, not just varieties. And famously, that other different Galapagos birds were all species of finches. Isn't that wonderful? Later on, after Darwin said that they came out with the fact that these are actually different species, not just different varieties. Too bad they can all be, interbred if brought together. There's also peripatric speciation. P-E-R-I, Patrick. In peripatric speciation, a subform of allopatric speciation, new species are formed in isolation, smaller peripheral populations that are prevented from exchanging genes with the main population. It is related to the concept of the founder effect. Since small populations often undergo bottlenecks, genetic drift is often proposed to play a significant role in the peripatric speciation. Case studies include investigation of bird fauna. The Australian bird, Petroca? I don't know. Reproductive isolation in populations of Drosophila, subject to population bottlenecking. Wow. All right. That sounds good. Thank you. Peripatric speciation. So you look up peripatric, and then you have parapatric, P-A-R-A, Patrick. In parapatric speciation, there's only partial separation of the zones of two diverging populations. And these are all represented by circles that are kind of inside of each other. They're like, see, in this one, the populations are split, but not completely. So there's like a little bit of the circle inside of the other circle. Get it? Got it? Good. In parapatric speciation, yeah. Oh, sure, yeah, put it in there. Yeah. You're part of it. All right. Perfect. Good. Thank you. All right. So peripatric speciation, there's only partial separation of the zones of two diverging populations afforded by geography. Individuals of each species may come in contact or cross habitats from time to time, but reduced fitness of the Hmm. Oh, wow. So behaviors or mechanisms are what are preventing their interbreeding. Hmm. So it's always like, this barrier, which is distance, size of anatomy. Oh, what's the other one? I think there's 3. But there's no such thing as true speciation. Because if the barrier that's keeping these 2 individuals from interbreeding is just distance, well, then there's subspecies. And here at the Sea Lab, we don't believe in subspecies. Okay. So, because according to that definition, humanity isn't all the same species. Okay, because we've been separated for an amount of time in different populations, right? Would you believe we can all still breed together? Hmm. It's almost like evolution leads to racism. And that's what scientific racism is. Thanks, Darwin and your cousin. Anyway, back to parapatric speciation, which is the reason these birds don't mate anymore is because they have different behaviors. That doesn't mean that they can't be genetically compatible. Well, if, I don't know, 2 populations of human act differently and they don't want to get with each other, does that mean that they're not the same species? No. All right, so yeah, speciation is a lie. Doesn't exist, especially when their best examples are the barrier being keeping these things from breeding being distance, okay, or behaviors. So parapatric is just an offshoot of allopatric, I suppose. And there you have it. And I looked at, sympatric. Ooh. Here's a fish. This is that cichlid claim. Hang on. Oh, here we go. Isn't she beautiful? I just found out there's a fish that the females of the species become male during the course of the individual's life. So fish are a little different, than land animals. They're most of them mammals. Sympatric speciation is the formation of 2 or more descendant species from a single ancestral species, all occupying the same geographic location. Often cited examples of sympatric speciation are found in insects that become dependent on different host plants in the same area. That's amazing. The best known example of sympatric speciation is the cichlids of East Africa, inhabiting the rift mix. Oh, what? Well, it said the best examples are insects that become the time, and then it goes and talks about a fish. That's weird. So anyway, the best known example of sympatric speciation is the cichlids of East Africa, inhabiting the Rift Valley lakes, particularly Lake Victoria. Ooh, that's right near where my paleoanthropology friends are working. Lake Malawi and Lake Tanganyika. Tanganyika. Yeah. And there are over 800 described species. Oh, there are over 800 described species of this fish? Holy moly. That's almost like they've widened the definition of species to include like even subspecies, and they're like to be different species. So they can be like, wow, this pine tree is a different species than this pine tree. Well, that doesn't work with plants, because in plants you have species and then cultivars. Okay, so be like, this pine tree is a different cultivar than this other pine tree, but they're still pine trees. Did you know that pine tree pollen can probably pollinate the other pine tree and make a crazy hybrid pine tree. Well, does that mean that they're different species or that they're different varieties? Yeah. So when you believe in subspecies being different species, then you kind of got to ask yourself, do you believe humanity's all the same species? Yeah. Well, with human evolution, they have other humans in their model. Okay. So they don't believe all in one species of humans. In fact, they believe that different populations of humans across the planet have different ancestors, some of them. Yeah. So it's interesting. All right. We'll have a discussion one of these good nights. I can't wait. I really can't. I got to find my conversation here with the AI that I had about sympatric speciation. But we'll go into it to talk your ear off. Sympatric speciation is the formation of two or more descendant species from a single ancestral species, all occupying the same geographic location. So this is different varieties in the same area. Coyotes and wolves. All right. Often cited examples of sympatric speciation are found in insects that become dependent on different host plants in the same area. So they just go to different plants. That splits the population. And then that's sympatric speciation. It has nothing to do with the fact that they can't interbreed anymore. It has everything to do with the fact that there's just distance keeping them apart. So, no, sympatric speciation is a lie. Saltational speciation, let's go back to that. Allopatric, saltational. I know it's in here. I've seen it. I read it in here before. I know it's in here. I don't know. All right. Well, I've got to try and log into this thing now. Okay, so Julian, can I use the all right. No, I'm good. I got it. It's right here. Okay. I got it. Okay. All right. So, saltational speciation. What could it all mean? Is saltational a word? One may need a dictionary. You know, evolutionists just make up terms, so you got to know. Ooh, that looks good.
So just speciation can occur rapidly, often in a single generation, through significant genetic changes or sudden environmental shifts. It's a fascinating idea that offers an alternative perspective on the process of species formation.
So, when you have a chromosome fusion event, I suppose that would be a saltational speciation event, right? That's interesting. Let's find out. Can the individuals interbreed? Whoa, I gotta read and write. All right. Okay. Oh my goodness. In saltational speciation, the individuals of the new species may or may not be able to interbreed with individuals of the parent species. Hey, I'm glad that they use the same terminology I do, like host species, parent species. I get yelled at all the time for what I say by the evolutionists because they're like, that's not a real term. Like here we have Kalmimo saying, beneficial mutations aren't what they say. That's not in any of the literature. Well, it turns out it is in the literature. We proved it. So, yeah. And here you have another claim of speciation where the descendant could probably still get with the host species. So where's the speciation? That's not true speciation. Your marbled crayfish can probably still mate with other crayfish, even if it has a different number of chromosomes. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's, yeah, I guess you probably do. So there's, what's the other? Okay, hang on. What's the? I gotta look something. Chromosomal. Okay. Now, if the AI can read what I wrote, because it's all jumbled. Let's see. Oh yeah, I can't. I'll read it. Ask it again. Okay. Well, I don't know where it went. I had there for a second. It was working for me for a second. Anyway. So, I believe... Oh, man, I don't want to be wrong. I think Down syndrome is because of the addition of a chromosome or the loss of a chromosome. Yeah. I don't know if that is not connecting, but... Either way,
what's your question?
Is okay. So, what would be a disorder due to a change of chromosome number in humans? All right. So, saltational speciation. Even if you have an additional chromosome, that doesn't mean that the animals aren't compatible anymore. Okay. So, like a lot of times, evolutionists will try to claim that the addition of some chromosome in the new variety of an animal means that it's a new species or speciation has occurred. That's just them still grasping at straws because they still have no example of speciation, true speciation. And you could say, you know, according to them, true speciation takes millions of years and we could never observe it and that we need a time machine. But that's just the point then, is that true speciation isn't observable truth. It's not science. It's believed in. It's evolution theory. So, sure, I got it. So, monosomy, Turner syndrome. No, that's one.
Is that what you're looking for or no?
That's one of them. But here's an example of, you know, change in the chromosome that still doesn't cause speciation, monosomy, where an individual is missing one copy of a particular chromosome, resulting in a total chromosome count of 45 instead of typical 46 chromosomes in each cell. One example of monosomy is Turner syndrome, where females are born with only one X chromosome instead of the usual 45, except the usual 2. Wow. Chromosome instead of the usual 2, so 45X. This condition can lead to various developmental and physical abnormalities. However, that doesn't mean they can't reproduce, you know. So, and even if, say, an individual is born from this host species, okay, and they can no longer reproduce with the host species, Well, does that make it a new species? Not necessarily, because then can it even reproduce at all? Okay. I mean, if you have a son that's infertile or a daughter that's infertile because of whatever reproductive disorder they have, does that mean that they're no longer human? No. But it's another boundary that occurs. So evolutionists use these boundaries such as distance, behavioral, the way the animals behave, the different groups that they get into. They use these examples to try and push speciation as real, to try to push evolution. The idea that all of the animals we know now came from common ancestor. Okay. This is their imagination, and it'll always be that until they can prove that new animal forms can pop out of old ones, because that's exactly what they believe. If you look at the Cambrian explosion that they believe in, they have all these new animal forms just like appearing out of nowhere in the course of a few million years. It's absolutely illogical. So that's about the whole of it. I think I'm going to cut it tonight and call it done. If he wants to come back and talk about, what was the other one? Oh, not wormwood, but like there's some flower in Britain that they claim is speciated. Let's see. Goat's beard. Okay, so they think that goat's beard has become a new goat's beard. And it's like most of these speciation claims are with plants, It's like, well, we want to know how the animal kingdom came to be, But even these plants, it's like, wow, I have a new form of goat's beard. Well, that new form of goat's beard can still get pollinated by its parental or its host, goat's beard plant. And it's still called goat's beard. Like they didn't even name it something new because it's still got the same leaves, it's got the same flowers, it's the same plant, But they're so strapped for evidence for evolution theory that they've got to reach for that. So oh, that's a good question. Hey Alex, has there been more beneficial mutations observed than there has been harmful mutations? Absolutely not. And as Jolene said earlier, there's over 6,000 named human genetic disorders, in the human population right now. So there are far more known disorders, not just bad mutations, but disorders as a cause of those mutations than there are beneficial mutations. In fact, there's so few beneficial mutations that if you ask an evolutionist that actually knows anything about their religion, they will give you the same 3 examples of beneficial mutations. Yeah. So that kind of explains it all. It's the same logic when it comes to the paleoanthropology. Where are all your missing links? And they're like, well, there's Lucy. And it's like, well, do you know of any more? Well, there's like 3 of them, man. Well, if there's 3 of them and they're all questionable claims, then why the hell would I believe in that? So, and that's what it really comes down to. So when you're looking at the animal kingdom and they're trying to come up with examples of true speciation and they're falling short, there's a good reason for that. It's because evolution is not how the animals came to be. These animals were created in full form initially, and since then new varieties have arisen, but they've always been the same form. And we're losing these forms to genetic disorders. So have a great week. It was great talking at you. Thanks, Jolene, for coming on tonight. Thank you, Jason, for joining up earlier.
Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Have a good night. God bless.
Yep. Stay strong and God bless.